Hello, BookTube. I've got another miscellaneous Irish stew type video for you today. I've made a couple of those in the last few days, and where I just go over in brief bullet points of all the different things that are going on in my fascinating, frail, shut-in world. And a number of you have emailed to say that you find them fascinating. You find these videos interesting, and that's good because I'm a little bit swamped with deadline work. So, and these are easy. So these are easy to do because I am an old querulous man, so I of course want to vent on what's on my mind. So I thought we'd go through that again today, and we can again keep to roughly the same parameters as the last couple of times, where we start with a broad focus and then consistently narrow our focus down to my personal obsessions. It's an absolutely beautiful Tuesday. This whole week is going to be beautiful. It's going to get gradually, microscopically warmer as the week goes on, as warm air is pushed to us ahead of a front that will probably bring a little rain at the end of the weekend, but nothing like heat, so nothing to complain about. If we talk first about news, well, the news cycle, at least in the United States, where I live, was completely dominated today by one thing. Donald Trump, who has been missing from action, he has not spoken to reporters or to the public in a week, and has fueled rampant speculation on Twitter that he was dead. Rampant, joyful speculation on Twitter that he was dead. Thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people going on Twitter and other social media to describe their holiday preparations if that news turns out to be true. And the White House announced abruptly last night that he was going to be giving an address in the Oval Office, an event in the Oval Office today, in the afternoon, and he did. And he was there, and despite the wish casting of a whole bunch of people who hate Trump just as I do, he wasn't any different. I saw commentators saying, "Well, he's obviously drugged to the gills," or "Look at this deformity or that deformity." He still has caked makeup on the tops of his hands, obviously from an IV, but nothing else. All the other things those commentators were seeing were simply false. He was no different at all from the last time he was in front of cameras. So there wasn't that grand reveal. The people who were anticipating this were talking about a grand reveal where he came on camera and it was obvious that he'd had a major health catastrophe and was only now recovering from it. Or some people even speculated that he would come on camera in order to resign, in order to invoke the 25th Amendment and resign. I thought about that speculation. I never really believed it. Trump is not going to die until the late 2040s, and he's going to be in office, in power, in the Oval Office that whole time. So I didn't really believe that he was going to, make a press event and resign, do something conscientious. The one thing that I knew, I just didn't know how, would be that the press conference itself, this event, would be a lie. Donald Trump, amazingly, politicians aren't known for their honesty, but amazingly, he never does or says anything true. Never. He never says or does anything true. Bill Clinton was a world-class practice liar, but in routine matters of fact, he told the truth. When the facts were right in front of him, he told the truth. Everything that Donald Trump is pure lying. He's pure deception. So I knew that the press conference this press event would be a lie. The event turned out to be nonsense. It turned out to be just a protracted announcement of how he was centering his new space control in Huntsville, Alabama. A plan that he had originally hatched in his first term and that had been tabled by the Biden administration as potentially being moved to Colorado, closer to the nerve center of other military intelligence agencies, instead of in Huntsville, Alabama. And the ostensible reason of this Oval Office event was to announce that this center, which will of course be named after Donald Trump, will be in Huntsville, Alabama. And there were a whole bunch of people there in the Oval Office to talk about that and to heap praise on him for the decision. And all throughout that event, Donald Trump was lying. He was lying. The main lie that he told over and over again was creating this kind of image of a collegiate rivalry and a happy, friendly White House. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's a dystopian hellscape where everyone hates everyone else, where everyone would gladly see everyone else die. He created this event, this image where all these different people behind him, these Alabama representatives, Alabama senator, the representatives of his cabinet, were all at him saying, sir, we have to move this thing to Huntsville, Alabama. It's really important. You got to give the go-ahead. When none of that happened, there was no collegiate rivalry. He also talked about how many states wanted this thing to be located in their state because, of course, it'll be a gigantic pork barrel of funding, especially under the Trump regime, where 9/10 of that funding will simply be skimmed off the top. A whole bunch of states wanted that, he said. A whole bunch of states were jockeying for it. A whole bunch of people in his cabinet were championing different states. And eventually Alabama won out. All of that was false. That's all a lie. Alabama is not the best choice. That was said by many representatives in this event and also by Trump himself, that it was the best choice because experts said that it was, because somehow experts said that this should be in Alabama for Earth rotation reasons and time reasons. Trump went on about how you save half an hour. That can mean a lot. None of that is true. That was all a lie. That's all false, including that a whole bunch of other states lobbied. There was never any chance whatsoever, under any circumstances imaginable, that this contract was going to go to a free state. Never in a million years. That would never have happened. This is just mob-style patronage. And that's what won out. The biggest bag of money with dollar signs printed on the side. That's what won out. That is the real story of the Donald Trump Space Force Center, or whatever it's going to be called. So the contents of this press event were a lie. There was no collegiate competition. The reason why it's going to Alabama is purely backroom dealing. It has nothing to do with logistics, nothing that experts say it should be. There was nothing bipartisan or objective about this, about any part of this procedure. You would have to have just fallen off the turnip truck to believe that about the Trump administration. You would have to be the most naive soul in the world to believe that. And yet, that's the story that came out. So everything that was said in that event was a lie. And a lot of what Trump-hating commentators say was also a lie. They zoomed in on Trump's face. They zoomed in on his body language. No. His face and his body language are exactly the same as they were in his last two press availabilities, as they're so stupidly called. So there wasn't any sign at all. But it's not just what was said at the event that was a lie. The event itself was a lie. The notice that this thing is going to relocate from a prospective Colorado location to Huntsville, Alabama, is at most something that Pete Hegseth would say. It's at most a 20-minute event outside the White House or in a briefing room in the White House or something like that. It is not a huge event with the president and every single person that he could gather together. No, the event itself was a lie designed to diffuse rumors that Trump is dying. That he is physically impaired to the point where he can't stand or speak anymore. And yet that was barely mentioned. A softball question was asked by a tame pet reporter, and Trump swatted it down as fake news. That's obviously not fake news. It's visibly not fake news. So the whole thing was not only full of lies, but was itself a lie. But it showed that Trump is not on death's door, the way everyone was hoping on Twitter. 6.5 billion people in the world, all simultaneously hoping for the same one thing. That has never happened before. In human history, that has never happened before. And don't say hoping for the return of the Messiah, because that never got as high as 6 billion. Never. Not even close. A third of that, at best. No, that never even came close. But That story, as I mentioned in the last Irish Stew video, was the shining lure to get the press to stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And it worked. Of course, it worked. The stupid SEAL press corps immediately moved over to the new shiny object and stopped talking about the fact that Trump is obviously implicated in Jeffrey Epstein's underage sex slave ring. He is implicated by name. He was seen and named in sworn deposition by witnesses. He's all over the Epstein files. He is as guilty can be of being a child rapist. And his people knew that was a bad no-win situation. First he says, there aren't any Epstein files. Then he says, there are files, but we're not releasing them. Then he says, we're not releasing them because we don't want to hurt the Democrats. We don't want to hurt Bill Clinton or whatever. For all I know, he's gone back to saying they don't exist anymore. Ridiculous, and the thing you do when you are guilty. And his people knew that, so they created a new shiny object for the stupid American press corps, and the press corps fell for it. The Trump is dying. And now we're all going to have to see the stupid procession of them all just herding back to the previous shiny object. Now that Congress is back in session, now that majority can overrule the speaker and table and put forward an inquiry into this whole subject, that's going to happen on, I think, what is it, the 8th? Something like that. There's going to be a whole bunch of witnesses. And that Mike Johnson, Donald Trump's tame pet Speaker of the House, cannot forestall that inquiry forever. And now the stupid press corps, who should never be listened to, no one should ever be listened to in any way on any subject, they're all just trooping back to that subject now because it turns out Trump is alive and well and can handle a press conference on his feet the whole time. Sounding dumb, but no dumber than the last time that he gave a press event of any kind, that stupid cabinet meeting that he had. So that's world news. That was the nothing burger, as the press says, for today. Is that people were speculating on what that event was going to be this afternoon, and it turned out to be full of lies and also a lie, but also a refutation of all the rumors that were going around Twitter. Because the whole world, billions of people, 6.1 billion people, were all suddenly so eager for this one specific event to happen. The sheer amount of celebration all over the world, in all languages, in all time zones, when that event happens in 2047, is going to be staggering. Just staggering. But anyway, that's the world. Then we can move to YouTube. And if we go to general YouTube, to broader YouTube, when I talk about general YouTube, I mean the huge YouTubers, all of them psychotic. They are all psychotic. They all have armories full of guns in their homes. They're constantly threatening each other with physical violence. They're constantly calling government agencies to swat each other or remove each other's children. They're constantly beefing with each other. They are lost, completely insane, non-human creatures, entirely motivated by clicks and lols. Entirely. I mean, even the creatures that you like, even the ones you like Moist Critical, but also all the others. Hasanabi, Ezra Klein, and also the one called Destiny. They are all non-human creatures. They are all non-human creatures. They're the latest generation. Those who have been online for a long time will remember the previous generation. Onision. Another perfect example of the way the culture at the top of YouTube can literally drive someone insane. It drives them insane, and it frees what appears to be the bottomless evil that you need to get that high, to get to that level. No good person ever gets to that level. You get to that level, and you're Logan Paul. You're Mr. Beast. A thoroughly, unbelievably evil person. When you get to that level, that has to be what you are. So either you needed that evil to get to that level, or that level made you evil. But one way or the other, you only have to think until 10 years ago, with Onision appearing in court in front of a judge, who of course has never heard of him. That's the thing that drives these YouTube celebrities insane, is that the world hasn't heard of them. The world has no idea who they are. They're busy creating whole cultures of influence around themselves, but no one knows who they are. Onision showed up for a court date with body armor on. And the judge took one look at him and said, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you wearing body armor in my court?" And Onision said, "Well, I'm sure you saw my last upload. All sweaty and breathless. I'm sure you saw my last upload. Got really good views, I'm sure." The judge had no idea what he was talking about. I wish the judge had cited him for contempt right there. But anyway, when we're talking about huge YouTubers like that, the story still is vying between two big YouTube stories. One is this story from Wired about how a whole host of left-leaning Democrat influencers, YouTubers, were bought and paid for by dark money and given a script from which they could not deviate. That seems to be petering out. I don't think people really care all that much about that, except they're ardent fans. They've all issued denials. But there is another story, and that involves the gigantic YouTuber Destiny, who a so-called slop tuber named Willie Mack outed him as a practicing pedophile, someone who has child pornography on his computer at the moment, and reported him to the police, live on camera, of course. These people never do anything that isn't live on camera. And there are a whole flurry of denials, and Willie Mack made a follow-up video today with dates, with screenshots of emails and Snapchat conversations and whatnot, reinforcing that idea. I'm sure that video about Destiny being a pedophile is just going to spark a whole new wave of response videos from every single influencer and clout chaser online. And, I'm sure that I'll watch a lot of those videos. But I have the same question with the second Willie Mack video that I did with the first Willie Mack video, which is, where is law enforcement? Where are the police in all of this? I mean, the kid is showing screenshots that clearly indicate, they can't be faked, they clearly indicate that this huge YouTuber is in possession of child pornography. That's against the law. Where is law enforcement with this guy? Why is this all happening on YouTube instead of in the real world? Why hasn't Destiny been arrested? Or at least brought in for questioning? Now, maybe, for all I know, he has been, and has somehow managed to keep that secret. But I don't believe it. I don't think law enforcement's done anything. It's just astonishing. This astonishing alternate reality where Logan Paul can break the law on camera 5 times in 1 month in, what was it, 2020? 5 times in 1 month, 5 different violations of local and state ordinance, and there's not even a visit from the police. Not even a visit. When one of those things, done off camera, would get you in local lockup, needing a lawyer. It's this alternate reality that I don't understand at all. I guess it makes for slop entertainment. But we can move on to far more civilized areas of YouTube. We'd have to deal with YouTube mega inhuman celebrities. Keep in mind, these people are not human. They have long since surrendered their humanity. If you were to walk up to Hasanabi or Moist Critical or whatever in their kitchen, if you were to walk up to them in their kitchen, the rare instance when they go to their kitchen, maybe to berate their chef or their sub-chef, each of whom is paid $50,000 a year, if you were to go into their kitchen and find them there, and you were to take one of the knives off the special sponsored knife holder on the counter, walk up to them and drag it across their arm, nice deep cut, not enough to sever a tendon, but enough to cause blood to gush out and run over the arm, their first thought would be, damn, did you get this on camera? Think about the views. That's their first thought. And that thought would happen before their nerves reported pain, because their nervous system has been rewired. They're literally not human anymore. So we can leave them aside. We talk about human beings for now, for a smaller concentration of YouTube. Like, for instance, a channel that I really like, and that I think the rest of you should like. I will leave a link to it down below in case you haven't seen it. I'm guessing that you haven't, since I think he has 5 subscribers. It's a new channel, and it's a writing channel, which digs at me. It digs at my guilty conscience, because I have been promising to resume writing content on this channel forever and ever. A lot of you have wanted that, and I haven't done it. I still watch a lot of writing channels, lots of them. And this one is called The Frivolous Writer. He's a new channel, and he's just made a video where he talks about the writing process, as he does. He does it very eloquently and very honestly. And in this video, he does a staggeringly brave thing. He reads the first chapter of his work in progress. Rough as it is, he finds a couple of mistakes as he's reading. That is pretty vulnerable. That deserves a round of applause. And I think you'll find it fascinating. I think you'll find his channel fascinating. So I'll leave a link I'm not going to bother to link to Destiny, obviously, or Willie Mack, but I'll leave a link to all the real people, the people who aren't insane monsters. So that is Frivolous Writer. Then we can move to a channel that doesn't need links from me. He's huge now, Isaac Arthur. I've praised him on this channel many, many times before. He is a science communicator on YouTube, one of the best ones. And he has a new video on an old topic, a topic that he has dealt with many times, always entertainingly, and that is the great filters. What are the great filters that might explain the Fermi Paradox? And the Fermi Paradox is a simple question tossed off by Enrico Fermi that went apocryphally along the lines of, well, the universe is this big and it's this old, so where are all the aliens? Not only should alien civilizations be abundant, but remnants of dead alien civilizations should be abundant. Even in a tiny little corner with very limited ability to eavesdrop or see, we should still be seeing aliens. At least some evidence of them. Instead, there's nothing at all. Nothing in the slightest. Where are they all? They've had billions of years to suffuse this galaxy. And yet, no. So that became the Fermi Paradox. Why is it that the universe seems empty of life other than Earth? And one body of responses to the Fermi Paradox was a series of things called great filters. What if the development of self-aware technological life has filters? What if there are filters in place to stop it from happening? And what would those filters be? And there are a whole bunch of them. Isaac Arthur has done an enormous amount of videos on this subject. And he just did basically a recension, the top 10 great filters. I'll leave a link to it. It is so fascinating. What are those filters? There are a whole bunch of them. For instance, in order to be a technological self-aware species, you have to make the evolutionary decision, so to speak, in natural selection terms, of developing a giant brain. In order to build a killer engine, with you can annoy people you don't even know. Where you tell the engineer of your engine, I want it to be incredibly loud. I want to annoy these people even though I'm never going to be in their neighborhood again. And the mechanic says, well, I can make the modifications you're talking about. It's going to blow out your engine. You'll be destroying your car. You'll need another one in a year. And the influencer says, no, go ahead and do it. It's more important to me that I ignore strangers. Because my penis is so small. I really need to compensate somehow. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, right. Plenty of very successful living organisms don't make that decision. They just don't make that decision. They make the decision to specialize in other ways. Keep in mind, dinosaurs ruled this planet for millions of years with brains the size of walnuts. So increasing your brain and cognitive size to the point where your brain is so big that it actually endangers the life of the mother in the birth canal. Well, that's a huge evolutionary gamble. It stands to reason that in the broader span of the Fermi Paradox, a whole lot of species just wouldn't make that gamble. You also need manipulable hands, and you need fire, so you need an environment where fire can work. There aren't any environments where fire can work anywhere else in the solar system. We have to assume from that largely speaking, it's probably rare where fire can work and be under control. Your system needs to be safe. So did a nearby star go supernova 10 million years ago and utterly cauterize your system with radiation? No life's going to develop there, technological or otherwise. That would just be a dead system. And so on and so forth. Maybe you do develop the gleanings of sentience, but you live on an incredibly tectonically active planet, far more so than this one. So you're never able to develop technology. Or what about if the technology is the problem? What if you develop technology that invariably kills you? Like guaranteed mutual thermonuclear annihilation. Mankind has the ability to annihilate itself. It hasn't done so, but it's been on a knife edge for the whole of one lifetime. What are those great filters? And is it possible that they account for the fact of the Fermi Paradox? So I will leave a link to his channel. It's fascinating. He is fascinating to listen to. Who else do I have for YouTube? Well, we could talk about BookTube, specifically BookTube. The Omnivorous Reader, I'll leave a link to her channel. She did a video on a book that I love. It's Michael D. Larrabete's book, The Borribles. He wrote the Borribles, and he wrote a sequel called The Borribles Go for Broke. They're these miniature. It's urban fantasy, but it's like no other urban fantasy that you've ever read. These miniature people, miniature humans living and fighting in a quasi fantasized version of the urban landscape. The Borribles is terrific. I used to have a paperback copy eons ago. I haven't had one in forever. I never see either it or the sequel anywhere. Not anywhere. The original, that paperback that I had from decades ago of the Borribles, I haven't checked, but I'd be willing to bet it's collectible on eBay. I'd be willing to bet that I would have to pay a pretty penny for it. But the Omnivorous Reader does a terrific job discussing it. And we could also talk about books. If we're talking about BookTube, we could talk about books. I read a book called Chasing the Dark, for instance, which is about the paranormal, and which, again, like with Ghosted, is an excellent historical inquiry into the paranormal and into people believing in it and building whole superstructures around it and bilking customers because of it. But its edges are a little bit blurry, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. At no point in your book about the paranormal should you say that the jury is still out, or that people think, or that people believe. There is no such thing as paranormal activity. There is no such thing as the supernatural. Not in any dimension, and not at any time. Human beings have had 17,000 years to produce proof of the supernatural. No one, under any circumstances, with any kind of motivation, and keep in mind there are a couple of prizes for millions of dollars right now, has ever done that. Therefore, it does not exist. It does not exist. It no more exists than, as I mentioned in an earlier video, giants on the edge of town exist that are 150 feet tall. So from your door, you should be able to see them. Well, you can't see them. Well, there's a reason why you can't see them, but they're still there. No. No. No one has ever produced any evidence of the supernatural. Therefore, the supernatural does not exist. So when you do a book called Chasing the Dark about people's fascination with the paranormal, well, okay, you can do that. That's fascinating on its own, but I don't want those blurry edges on the side. Anyway, I read that, and I had my usual quibbles about it. I reread I read the finished copy of a book called Lab Dog about beagles in research institutions, and it was tough to read, really tough to read, and that it was really well done. But it was tough to read, even though the author was pulling his punches. He didn't delve into the subject as deeply as I have delved into it. He didn't. I'm sure maybe he did and just didn't write about it. Probably he didn't because he wanted a family-friendly book. Although some of the stuff that he writes about is horrifying, he could have written about a lot more horrifying stuff that's out there, and they're still being done. Totally redundantly. Two cases that I know of where labs that are privately funded continue to do experiments on torture beagles, even though that the entire torture session, the whole data set that they have ever said they want from those procedures, they now do with imaging right alongside it. So no, we pay this group and they get us this shipment of beagles and we do this. There is no, but we don't need it anymore. We can get all the results and the data from three-dimensional imaging and whatnot and AI-assisted stuff. We don't need to do that to the dogs at all. Meaning that if you don't need to do that, the only reason you are continuing to do it is bloodlust, sadomasochism, which I have been saying since long before there was imaging technology, from long before there was any technological alternative. I was saying the reason you're doing these experiments, not only to beagles, but to mice, to rats, is bloodlust. That's all. It's the only reason you're doing this. You don't need to do this any more than a suburban hunter with a Hardee's on every corner needs to go out hunting for subsistence. No, this is just bloodlust. Very institutionalized, but you like it. You like it. You like blinding these animals. You like giving these animals painful, gigantic, heavy tumors and watching them limp around with them. You like that. So Lab Dog wasn't easy to read. It would be impossible for me to recommend, even though it was well done. It'd be impossible for me to recommend it to anybody. And then there's the new book by Philippa Gregory, which is definitely going to appeal to at least two people that I know. It is called Boleyn Trader, and it is about Jane Boleyn. Name might not be familiar to you because forever and ever she was known as Jane Rochford. Jane Boleyn is a marketing gimmick. I'm sure you put the name Boleyn in a title for Tudor fiction, you're going to do a lot better than Jane who? but Jane Boleyn, I haven't read the book yet, I hope she is not portrayed as a hero in Tudor, in Boleyn Traitor, because that's just what she was. She was a traitor. She was a horrible, horrible thing. A creature, a blot, a spider. She deserved the miserable end that she got. One of the few victims of Henry VIII that did. We'll see. I'll be interested to see what Philippa Gregory does with Jane Rochford, that infamous bod. I'll be interested to see what she does with it. I know one in the YouTube Tudor space. I know one diehard fan of Jane Rochford who very happy that this book comes out and might quibble with it if it lays any wrong at Jane Rochford's door. And I know another who will find it fascinating anyway. But I will have to report back on it. It's just a new Philippa Gregory novel. That's a lot of fun. So that's books. I haven't yet started the pile for tonight, or even really thought about it. I'm going to read all night. I'm going to read all evening. I'm thanks to rising and grinding and getting my kingdom built first thing in the morning. I'm a little bit ahead of my writing for today. So I'm going to use that to do a little more reading. Is the seesaw of my life, the eternal seesaw of my life. But that is books for now. Yesterday afternoon, I reread The Two Towers for no discernible reason whatsoever. I just did. I just read, and it was largely autopilot because I know it so well, and it was just a lot of fun. Well, okay. Well, if we move from books to other stuff to wrap this up, no idea how long this video is going to be. These Irish stew videos. The people who like them seem to really like them. So maybe I'll give it a rest after today for a few days and collect data. But we can also talk about a controversy from the last Irish stew video. One I did yesterday had a controversial note. I was mentioning earworms. What song is stuck in my head? Of course, there's no change in that. It's the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and it's going to be that way forever. But I also mentioned eye worms. Stuff that I am watching and that I can't stop rewatching. Because I again, for those of you who are new to the channel, I have a friend who sends me screeners, electronic screeners of stuff that's coming out. She's been in Hollywood forever and has access to anything, and seems genuinely interested in my opinion. And she says that she's not the only one. She says that sometimes when you write me a diatribe about something, I share it with a whole bunch of people, including people who are directly involved in its production, and they find it interesting. More interesting, they find the feedback from groups that are paid for feedback. So it's not just personal. I definitely keep telling me what you think. I don't know that how much of that I believe, but she sent me a bunch of screeners, and I was paying attention. I've been paying attention to two of them. One of them is Russell Crowe in a new thing called Nuremberg, where he plays Goering on trial at Nuremberg. And that, when I mentioned that was an eye worm, none of you were surprised at all. None of you were surprised. One of you even in an email said, well, you've got to like Russell Crowe if you liked him in the adaptation of one of your favorite books, A Winter's Tale, because that adaptation was so terrible. I agree. That adaptation was terrible. But wasn't he good in it? Anyway, that was totally predictable. No, it was the other eye worm that rocked your world. When I mentioned that I keep watching and rewatching Francois Ozon's adaptation, his new movie of The Stranger by Albert Camus. That rocked the world of a lot of people. I got a lot of emails just basically saying, WTF. How can this possibly be true? It's a foreign movie. It's a dubbed movie. It's a French movie. It's in black and white. It's adapted from a book by a philosopher who was 7 packs a day. You should hate this. This is pretty much everything you hate. I agree. I agree. It is. I thought in this Irish Stew video I would address the scandal, the controversy. I agree. It shouldn't be something that fascinates me. I just think I have loved watching it. I love watching it. And like I said yesterday, it reminds me of the deceptively simple power of The Stranger, of the book. Very deceptively simple power, much like I mentioned Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mentioned The Heart of Darkness. I could also mention Kafka's Metamorphosis as these very short works that have an almost mythological simplistic power to them. I don't know an explanation. I don't have an explanation. The heart wants what it wants. So I felt briefly guilty about it last night, and I was looking on the laptop for other screeners that maybe could take its place. And while I was doing that, I actually felt the urge to watch it again. I'm hooked on this until something else takes its place. That's all. Will not be Boy Kills World. It'll be something new. I just thought I would report on the state of the scandal, and that's basically it. That's an Irish Stew video for you. The eye room and the earworm haven't changed. It's those two movies, and it's that one song, that one great song that I hope a lot of you have gone and listened to, so you can understand your grandparents a little better. But anyway, that's an Irish Stew video. This has been a beautiful, peaceful day, just full of work. And full of self-control, because the place is still an absolute mess, and every instinct in me wants to start addressing that, but addressing the mess involves a lot of heavy lifting and moving heavy things around. And I would think that I would need lats and traps to do that correctly, and I don't have those. So it's just been self-control. It's been mostly reading and writing and cuddling with my little bean, who is, I don't know if you see her head sticking out over there. She's over on her chair. So that'll do for now. That is a rambly Irish Stew video. I'm sorry if these are incredibly self-indulgent. Just let me know, and we'll back off on them for a while. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.